Now, here let's talk about how Section 280E does not satisfy any IRS or any war on drug policy goals. The goals of the war on drugs were to combat the flow of illegal drugs into the United States, significantly reduce illegal drug use, and educate the public about illegal drugs and substances. 280E does not reduce the flow of illegal drugs into the United States. It's actually indirectly subsidizing the black market. Every state is contending with an illicit market that composed of more than 85% of cannabis sales in North America in 2016. In 2018, 2 years after Massachusetts legalized cannabis, 90% of cannabis sales in the state were from the black market. In 2019, cannabis sales in California totaled roughly $12 billion, and $8.7 billion of that was generated by the black market. The black market is unregulated, thus their products are not likely to be lab tested. Products from the black market pose a danger to human health. Recently, an outbreak of lung injury associated with the use of vape products spread across the United States. That hospitalized over 2,600 people. The Center for Disease Control and the Federal Food and Drug Administration recommended people not use vaping products from informal sources like the black market. Now, of 50% of the patients who reported where they purchased their devices, 78% of them reported informal sources. A 2018 study published by eSolutions reported that 18% of respondents purchased cannabis from the black market due to the black market having cheaper products and no tax. So not only do black market operations undercut legal obstacles from the start, like licensing requirements, permit requirements, but add on Section 280E that cripples the legal market's potential to scale, provide cheaper medicine, donate to charity, and give raises to their employees. The burden Section 280E, those burdens make it less appealing to a potential employee, consumer, or patient to go to the legal market. But because of the business owner's inability to expand, patients have to drive upwards of 60 miles sometimes to get their medicine. State-imposed lab testing for pesticides can cost upwards of $30,000 per year out of pocket, which they will not be able to deduct. And while these tests are absolutely necessary to make the legal market safe for consumers, cannabis businesses cannot deduct these tests as a business expense. Even though these business expenses are legal, thus deductible under Section 162, cannabis businesses are forced to inflate prices in their products in order to make up for their inability to deduct business expenses. Consequently, Section 280E is pulling consumers and patients into the black market because the prices are cheaper. The black market dealers don't have to deal with any of this. Until Section 280E is modernized to allow cannabis companies to deduct similar expenses taken by basically every other industry in the world, patients and adult use consumers will continue to use the cheaper, unregulated, illicit market cannabis products. If the federal government truly wants to deter illegal drug use and abuse, they should tax cannabis businesses on a net income basis rather than a gross receipts basis. Taxing cannabis businesses on a net income basis would make it less profitable for black market sellers to make illegal sales, thus diverting more business through the legal regulatory channels. States and municipalities are taking notice of how tax laws like Section 280E strengthen the competitive position of black markets, thus hurting the legal businesses. In 2017, Colorado reduced its state cannabis tax in order to remain competitive with the black market. More recently, a California state bill was introduced specifically to, quote, protect legitimate tax-paying businesses and stop the illegal illicit market. Over time, Section 280E is also not going to help the IRS raise revenue, which is their main responsibility. Now, let's go back to the public policy doctrine. In molding the doctrine, the Supreme Court tried to balance the public's uneasiness toward illegal activities and balance that with the code's intent to raise revenue by taxing income derived from any source. Congress's codification of Section 280E did not evenly balance the two. Section 280E tips the public's uneasiness to far outweigh the code's intent to raise revenue. Yes, the IRS is using Section 280E to generate tax revenue, but these revenues are only going to last so long. If Congress does not reform Section 280E, it's reasonable to think the IRS will eventually tax the cannabis industry out of business and as a result lose out on a future gold mine of a market. In fact, California officials blamed the growth of the illicit market for their underachieving tax revenues in recent years. Taxing cannabis businesses on a net income basis would allow the businesses to reach sustainability, and it would in turn lead to the United States to reap tax revenues for years to come. It's ruining the long game for the sustainability and the growth of the market.